What is happening, everyone? The football therapist here to talk week 1 sitter start. There's going to be a lot of information in this video. I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. Some of the players, they're kind of obvious that you have to start. Others, I'll go into a little bit more detail of why I'd rather sit or start them. So let's go through these games, starting with the Thursday night match. So we're going to start with the starts for the Texans and Chiefs game, and there's a lot of them. You got to start the quarterbacks, the running backs, Hill, Kelsey, Fuller, Cooks, Hardman. Even in deeper leagues, I would consider maybe Sammy Watkins. And Hardman to me is that guy who could be that high upside flex in a matchup like this. Both defenses secondary aren't the greatest. I think the cornerbacks are lacking on each team. So I think that there's going to be a high offensive affair. Obviously, Mahomes and Watson, they're going to throw the ball a ton. The running backs are going to be utilized both in the backfield and out of the backfield. Duke Johnson is another guy who could be utilized a ton in deeper leagues. I would put him on your flex if you have like 2 or 3 flex spots. I just think that this game is going to be very high scoring. There's going to be a lot of offense, and it's going to be almost impossible to justify sitting any big names in this game. Same with the next one, the Seahawks and the Falcons. You got to start Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Hayden Hurst I would also start. The Seahawks defense to me kind of is a little bit weaker than they were last year. I think that the Falcons, they're going to run the ball with Gurley, and they're going to utilize, of course, the pass attack a lot and spread it around to all 3 of these guys. And a lot of these guys will potentially have the opportunity to score touchdowns and get you a lot of fantasy points. Same on the other side. Metcalf and Lockett, this Falcons secondary is kind of weak this year. I think both of these guys can have a ton of success. I know they're going to try to run with Carson too. I could see Carson having a big game. That's why he's also in the start column. But I think there's going to be a lot of passing from both sides as well, and everyone should be started in this game, in my opinion. Jets vs. Bills, this is where I get a lot more sits. I think it's going to be a little sluggish by the Jets. I only have Crowder starting for them because with the injuries to their wide receivers and potentially Herndon, I think that he'll get a ton of targets like he did in the opening game last year, and that volume will make him fantasy football relevant in PPR leagues, at least as a flex. On the other side, I trust Josh Allen with his rushing upside. Stephon Diggs and John Brown should have a very good game. This Jets secondary is a little weaker to me, especially with the loss of their safety, Jamal Adams. The sits in this game are going to be the Bills running back for me. Singletary, he's been fumbling a lot in camp. They don't trust him. There's talk that Zach Moss can start. I just don't trust either of these guys, at least for week 1. I don't know what they'll be doing in that backfield, so I'm going to be sitting both of them against a very good Jets front defense as well. They were very good against the rush last year, and although they don't have Mosley, they didn't have him last year, so I trust that Jets rush defense over their pass defense. For the Jets, of course, the wide receivers and Herndon are both sits for me, as well as Darnold. I think it's going to be a very difficult afternoon. Le'Veon Bell I'm sitting simply because I don't trust this Jets offensive line yet. I don't trust Adam Gase. It could be a very difficult day for him. Bears-Lions, I think that this game is going to be another one of those lower scoring affairs. I think you could see a lot of passing, in my opinion, mostly because I don't trust the running backs for either of these teams. A lot of injury concerns on both sides. Stafford, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, you have to start him in my opinion, as well as Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller in deeper leagues, and Tariq Cohen will be used a lot out of the backfield. The sits for me are the Lions running backs because Swift, Kerryon Johnson, they're both banged up. They brought in Adrian Peterson. It could be a crapshoot this first week. And then David Montgomery is nursing an injury, so if he's hurt, you can't start him. So to me, this is going to be a very physical affair. A lot of passing, in my opinion, as the rushing games for both teams will struggle to get. And Vikings is the next game up. To me, you got to start Devonte Adams and Rodgers. I think that this Vikings secondary is a lot weaker than they were last year on the outside. And last year, of course, they struggled. And to me, Rodgers is just going to throw the ball to Adams a ton. There's not many secondary wide receivers that I trust this week, being that it's week 1, and we haven't really seen much out of those secondary guys. Same with the other side. I trust Thielen to start him, mostly because the volume will be there. He's a trustworthy guy. We really haven't seen much out of the other complementary weapons, so those are going to be the core guys you're going to want to start in this game. And then, of course, the running backs. I think they're Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones. They're a must start. They're two guys that I'm not very high on this year, but at least for week 1, if you drafted them, you have to start them this week. You probably drafted them very high, and they're going to be your RB1 or RB2. Sitting, like I said, the secondary wide receivers, and then also Cousins. I'm not a big Cousins fan for this game. I think they continue to try to run a lot, and since he lost Diggs, I expect him to struggle just a little bit with some of those secondary guys. Dolphins, Patriots. For me, the Patriots, I'm going to be starting James White, Julian Edelman, Cam Newton. Those guys are relatively safe, in my opinion, on this team, being that there's a lot of risk with the rest of the offense around them. On the Dolphins side, it's going to be Parker. Monitor his injury. He's been a little banged up. And Mike Gesicki. I think both of those guys will see a ton of volume in the passing game. And I'm not too scared to go against this Patriots secondary week 1 this year. I think Parker should get the volume that he needs to put up a very good fantasy showing. Who am I sitting? That's going to be the Dolphins running backs. I don't really know what they're going to do with this running back core yet. Jordan Howard should be the early down guy. I think maybe he could get some good yardage, but this Patriots defense, they've always been known to be tough, and Matt Breida could steal a lot of targets coming out of the backfield, so that's going to be a lot of PPR work going Breida's way instead of Howard's way, so it's a little worrisome for me. And then the secondary receivers, the rest of these guys, Preston Williams coming off of injury, N'Keal Harry, we don't know if he'll break out yet, and some of these other options we just haven't seen much of, so I'm just going to fade all of them. Eagles and Washington, this is going to be a pretty lopsided game in my opinion. You got to go with a lot of the Eagles players. Sanders, although he has a little injury concern, I still trust him going against Washington. He's going to get a ton of work. Desean Jackson is someone I'm not very high on long term, but for this matchup, the Eagles receivers are already banged up. No Rieger, he should be back by week 2. This is the perfect opportunity for Desean Jackson to give you 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, win you your fantasy week, and then maybe disappear sometime in the near future. Wentz and Ertz, both of them are good quality starts this week. And then Scary Terry for Washington. I think he's going to have a really good game. He's going to get the volume that's needed to really put up quality fantasy football numbers. I'm fading the Washington running backs. I don't really know what to expect of this roster. And the secondary receivers are not really appealing on either side. Raiders and Panthers, to me, it's the running back show. CMC can't sit him. Josh Jacobs, you can't sit him. Both are super safe. And then I'm thinking this is going to be a higher scoring affair. Both defenses are not too appealing to me. Carolina could have the worst defense in the league. So I'm going to start Carr, Waller, even Bridgewater in Superflex leagues if you have to. And then Hunter Renfrow is really appealing coming out of the slot. Right now the Raiders have both rookies, Ruggs and Edwards, slated to start. but Renfro's just a lot safer to me. So although I'll be monitoring the situation, I think having Renfro come out of the slot should be really appealing as a flex play. And then on the Panthers side, I'm sitting the secondary receivers outside of Moore. They just don't appeal to me to have huge upside. Colts Jaguars to me. This one could be a little bit lopsided, but again, anything happens in week one. There's going to be a lot of fantasy guys I want to start. I'm trusting Jonathan Taylor this week. I feel like this is the perfect matchup for him as a rookie. The Jaguars defense to me will not be as strong this year, and he should have plenty of quality touches and have a lot of success. I'm going to trust Rivers and Hilton. I think that they have a very good connections this season. I do worry about Hilton's health long term, but for week one, I feel like he should dominate this young Jaguars secondary. Jack Doyle there is also another guy. If you need a tight end, I would trust him going against this defense. On the Jaguars side, DJ Chark and Chris Thompson are the guys I would want to start. PPR work for Thompson is going to be key. I think they have to pass a ton if they get down. He'll be utilized a lot. I feel like this coaching staff will trust him more than these young guys. And of course, DJ Chark will get a lot of volume. I thought about starting Minshew, but I feel like to me there's a lot more quality quarterbacks out there who have really good matchups. So if you need to start him, definitely do so. He's going to get a lot of passing work, in my opinion. They could be down late. But if you don't need to start him, try to look a different route for one of those higher scoring affairs. And then I'm fading all the secondary running backs and wide receivers from both teams. Very young core on both sides. And I'm just not appealed by any of them. Browns Ravens, to me, you got to start all the starting running backs. The Cleveland running backs, Chubb and Hunt, they're going to get a lot of work from Stefanski. Ingram on the other side, I trust him the most out of their running back core. He's going to be the starter, at least for now. He was highly efficient last year. Got to start Lamar, Andrews, and I really like Hollywood Brown and Beckham as wide receivers. With both of these defenses having to worry about this rushing attack, there's going to be looks, in my opinion, through play action. And I think that both of these guys can make a lot of plays down the field. One guy I am fading a lot is Jarvis Landry. He's coming back from that injury. I don't know if he'll be 100%. And again, I don't 100% know if there'll be enough targets to go around in this passing attack. If they really scale back like the Vikings did last year, especially early on, this becomes the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt show. I feel that early in the season, Landry may be left out of the mix, especially since he's returning from that injury. I'm not trusting Baker Mayfield in this matchup. The Ravens have a good defense. And the secondary running backs for the Ravens I'm not trusting, although I'm very high on J.K. Dobbins long term. Chargers Bengals, Eckler and Mixon from both teams. You got to start first round, second round running backs. They should have success. Keenan Allen I like this week. The Bengals secondary is not that good in my opinion, and Allen should get plenty of volume with Mike Williams out. Hunter Henry as well could be utilized, and I could see him getting a touchdown against this weaker Bengals defense. And then I'm starting A.J. Green. If he's healthy, ready to go, you take a shot on him. He has the ability. I think that Chris Harris will be matched up against Boyd. That's why I'm kind of iffy on Boyd this week. Chris Harris Jr. to me will cover Boyd. And I think that'll be a tough matchup for him, especially with the young Burrow. I think Burrow could struggle at times this game. The Chargers defense to me, although they lost Derwin James, is still very capable. And I'm also sitting Tyrod Taylor. Bucs Saints, this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Start the quarterbacks, start the wide receivers, start the tight ends, start Kamara, in my opinion. A lot of these guys are going to be utilized a ton. I think the quarterbacks will put on a passing show. and you really can't sit anyone. Maybe Jared Cook is the odd man out, but I still think that he could get a touchdown in this game. A lot of these guys were high draft picks and you're relying on, so there's no one to me that you can really sit in this game. Besides the Bucks running backs, I don't trust that situation right now. Is Rojo the guy? Fournette's going to have a role. Will LaShawn McCoy be used sometimes on third down? If I had to pick one, I'd pick Ronald Jones, but I just don't trust this team enough. If you could go another option at running back, please do so. Cardinals 49ers, one of the later games. There's going to be a lot of people to start in this matchup. On the Cardinals side, you have to trust Murray, you have to trust Drake, and you have to trust Hopkins. Yes, I know the matchup with the 49ers is difficult, but these are guys you spent high capital on. You can't afford to sit those type of guys. And last year, Kyler Murray actually did very well against the 49ers. He finished as the QB6 one time and QB9 the other. So there's no reason why you shouldn't trust him. And I think that this will be a back and forth battle to me. I think the Cardinals do have a chance to really make it a close game and get some good quality offense. On the other side, you have Mostert, who you need to start to me from this 49ers team. Coleman could be a good start if you have a deeper flex, and obviously Kittle, because they're hurting at wide receiver. I think Debo could play, but I wouldn't trust him. I think Brandon Ayuk might have a chance to play, but I don't trust him. I don't trust any 49ers wide receiver. And to me, that also hurts Jimmy G, because we could see a lot of rushing in this game by them. I also sat Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. I think that both of them have a lot of potential. But again, this matchup is a little difficult from an offensive perspective. I think that you lean more on that Hopkins than going to a Kirk or Fitz. And I feel that one or two of those guys could be left out of the fantasy mix. And I wouldn't know which one to trust personally. That's my take on the situation. Cowboys Rams, the Sunday night game. You got to start a lot of people in this matchup as well. Zeke, Dak, Gallup, and Lamb to me are all great starts. I think this is going to be a very good back and forth battle. And why I'm comfortable starting Lamb is because I'm a little nervous about Amari Cooper. He'll probably be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, in my opinion. And if Ramsey gets into Amari Cooper's head and shuts him down a little bit, we've seen him in the past where he's looked sluggish against top cornerbacks. This could turn into the Gallup and Lamb show, exploiting those secondary defenders. You also have to start Woods and Kupp, in my opinion. And I may even start Goff, although this pass rush to the Cowboys scares me a little bit, and Goff doesn't normally do well among pressure. So that's why I left him out. On the Rams running backs, Akers, I would definitely put as a start if Henderson is out. It's still not confirmed if he's playing or not. So that's why I would just monitor the situation, and if Henderson doesn't play, roll Akers into your starting lineup. Steelers and Giants, you got to start the running backs. Barkley is a must start every week. You draft him second overall, you're going to have to start the guy. James Conner, he's going to be the workhorse, they said early on. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. You got to start him, though. I also like Juju and Deontay Johnson as the wide receivers to start. This Giants secondary isn't the best this year, so I feel that they could have a lot of success. And Evan Ingram is a guy who I feel like you have to start on the Giants side of the ball. I know he has health concerns, and I faded him long term. But if he's healthy, he's the starting guy that I would want to roster from this receiving core. I don't trust the Giants wide receivers because, one, the secondary is very good for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and two, Daniel Jones spreads it around a lot. So, to me, Ingram is going to be the main guy getting targets. out of those four guys between Slayton, Tate, and Shepard, all three of those guys could make plays any given down. So I don't trust them in my fantasy lineup. And the reason why I put the quarterbacks in there is, although I think that there'll be a good amount of passing, I think that we'll see a lot of rushing and goal line work and a lot of touchdowns by the running backs this game on the ground, in my opinion. Lastly, we got the Titans and the Broncos. You got to start Derrick Henry. I would start A.J. Brown and Jonah Smith just because, one, you invested a lot of draft capital in A.J. Brown, and he's almost a must start to me. He has such high upside any given week, and the matchup doesn't really scare me that much. And then Jonah Smith is a very sleeper tight end to me. With this play action game, I feel like he could have a coming out party this Monday night. On the Broncos side, Gordon and Lindsay both are a start to me. Right now, they're 50-50 split from what I've been hearing. I think Lindsay will be utilized a ton in the passing game. Gordon will get a lot of the between the tackles work, and he could be used in the passing game. So both guys, to me, are at least flex-worthy if you have them on your roster. Sutton, also a very good start, as I don't see the other secondary wide receivers really doing much, in my opinion, to start this year. It's going to be very difficult with no preseason, and I don't know if I trust the Judy week one going against a pretty solid Titans defense. As for the quarterbacks, I sat them because, one, I'm not ready to trust Drew Lock week one as my starting quarterback. And again, Ryan Tannehill, he could put up some big plays with A.J. Brown and Jonah Smith, but I don't think he's going to have 2-3 touchdowns. I think that Henry's going to get a lot of the touchdown work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below what you think about my starts and sits. I'm going to be trying to do different things every week so that we get a lot of good content out there. Thank you so much.